Good morning. I've got Amy back. Thank goodness. There's no time-lapse photography this week. I've sent you a little video of what I've been up to this morning, walking up Whitfield, which is very good for me. It's project we're out of January, no excuses. You're into February, start walking and get fitter. So 15,000 steps a day challenge now. So just because we're going to be doing a lot of walking, we might as well pile on a few calories, and I'm going to start you off today with your challenge, which is profiteroles. Can't beat them. Gorgeous profiteroles. I thought they'd be really lovely for you for Valentine's Day next week. So I'm going to set off by, first of all, I've set my oven to 200, and you need a nice hot oven, and I'll talk to you about that after. And I'm going to put 150 mils of water, cold water, into a pan. 148, I'll have 2 more mils, 150, and then I'm going to put into that 50 grams of butter, and you can see I've cubed that up nice and small. It's cold butter, but it's nice and small. I'm just going to spread that out, and I'm going to pull that onto the stove on 5. I'll put it on 5. We want that to melt down and then start boiling. Now, people are worry about profiteroles, but don't worry about profiteroles. They're actually easy to make as long as you follow exact guidance. Now, so you've got 50 grams of butter into 150 grams of water, and I've got 60 grams of flour. Now, this is strong white bread flour, so it's a higher gluten content. It'll make it crisper, harder. And what you are doing with profiteroles is when you put them in the oven, and I'm going to do them on time-lapse since I've now discovered time-lapse, so you can see them rise, and they get to the stage where they look golden brown and gorgeous, a bit like Yorkshire puddings. They're very unstable, very high water content. Don't take out of the oven at that stage. They look perfect, take them out at that stage, and they just poof, collapse because the structure's not hard enough. Now, you're using strong white bread flour so that the structure will hold that shape. More or less. I mean, they shrink down a bit, but not much. So we want them nice and firm, and they need to be just that bit darker than you think looks attractive. 60 grams of flour, and into that I'm going to put a good heaped teaspoon of sugar. Now, if you were doing savoury ones, and these are delicious, with something like a salmon mousse, or even like a hummus or something, but they are nice as a savoury one, but obviously don't put any sugar in. And so my butter is going to be melting on here, it's just starting. And in this bowl, I'm going to crack 2 eggs. Now, I can guarantee, it's really naughty, wasn't it? It's got some shell in it. We won't use 2 eggs, but you will use more than 1. So you have to crack 2 in, don't tip them in all at once, that's all of that. I'll blame the eggs, they're very shelly. Crispy. Right, so that's that done. And I'm going to whisk those until all that yolk is mixed into the white. Okay. So that's nice and whisked. And then we're going to add that into this mixture very carefully. Now I'm going to have a bowl ready, so I want a cold bowl. And what we're going to do is this is going to come to the boil, and when it's really boiling up nicely, we're going to add the flour, and we're going to beat like mad, and it looks dreadful. But I'll get Amy right in close so you can see mine looks dreadful, yours will too. Then it'll come too. It starts to go into a gloss. I'm going to put that into a cold bowl just to bring the temperature down a bit. And then I'm going to start adding the egg. If you add it when it's really, really hot, you'll end up with scrambled egg. Now, I've got a tray here, a baking sheet, and I've lightly greased it and I've lined it with parchment. Now, what I'm going to do here is drizzle some water on the top, swill it round, and then I'm going to tip the spare back in. Now, that water is going to create steam, a bit like making baguettes. You want the outside crusty. If you want crusty bread, you add steam. So I want my profiteroles to be really crusty. Right, so Amy, if you come over here, you can see what's going on here. That butter is now virtually melted, so I'm putting the temperature up to maximum, and I'm going to let that, I'm not stirring it, I'm just swilling it. You can see, if you can see through the steam, It's starting to come up like a sort of honeycomb. When it's all completely bubbling, just be patient. You can't see because it's quite chilly in here. So it's steaming, that is properly bubbling now. Rolling boil it's called. It looks like honeycomb. So I'm going to turn that off and I'm going to bring it over. I've got my flour and my sugar. I'm going to shoot it in and stir like mad. And it's all lumpy and gross. And you think, oh my God, it's gone wrong. It hasn't. Carry on, it's a good workout. I'm using my watch arm, so I'm doing thousands of steps. And that is starting to come creamy. And it'll soon leave the pan relatively clean. It's not quite like making hot water crust where it all comes away, but it is, look. It's going smooth. And you don't want any lumps of flour in it. You just keep working out. Woo, think of those calories, Lizzie. And that pan is now clean. So that comes away in a lump. And there's no lumps in it. I'm going to tip that into this nice cold bowl, just so I can bring that temperature down a little tiddly bit. So I don't want this to be a great long video for you. So I'm just going to, I'm a professor, had my haircut by the way. Amy didn't notice, but you know, I'll let her off. Quite a lot off, and it's dyed. Hence, Project Elizabeth, sort yourself out. Having sat for 3.5 hours. Right, so, whew, I am now knackered. Right, so, that's a really smooth paste. Now, if you added all your flour, all your egg at once, it would go lumpy. So we're just going to add a little bit at a time. And what we're looking for, and stir quickly because we don't want scrambled egg. What we're looking for is a paste, a smooth paste, and a reluctant drop. A reluctant drop, not an enthusiastic drop. Whew. My arm is aching. You could do this with a mixer, I suppose, but just go for it with your hand. Right, so that's ready for me to add a bit more. I'm going to add a bit more. Don't add too much, otherwise you'll scramble your eggs. You can obviously, if you're not filming, wait for it to go a little bit cooler. But still, add it a bit at a time. Make sure you've got a smooth paste in between. I'm just going to take that bit off the spoon. Don't want to waste a profiterole. It's amazing. And you see, profiteroles are expensive, but they're easy. Easy to make, and they're delicious. You'll get enough for 4 here, for 4 people to have 3. Right, so that's now smooth, so I can add a bit more. And it's very reluctant, so whoop, that's quite a lot. I'll probably do it now. Obviously, each time you're adding the egg, you're bringing that temperature down a bit, so it becomes a bit easier. Right, so smooth paste. If you do it too sloppy, they won't rise. If you do it too hard, they'll be horrible. So it's, as Baby Bear would say, just right. Right. Ooh, we're there. Right, so I've got a smooth paste, everything off the sides. Let's test. I'm just going to take it off the spoon again. Check it's all off. You want a consistent paste. Right, and then have we got a reluctant drop? Leaves a V. Perfect. Right, now for my profiteroles, I'm doing decent sized ones for tea time. So I've got a dessert spoon. So I've got my tin that's had the water on. I'm dipping the dessert spoon into the water so it's nice and cold. It just means the mixture will go more neatly onto the tray. Dip it in again. It'll come off more easily. Don't put them too close together because they're going to rise. She says very optimistically. They are of course going to rise. I want to get 12 on this. So I'm just dipping it into the water each time and then dipping it into the mixture. nice and speedy. Let's move him over. So it just makes it much more easy to deal with. And that'll all help with that nice bit of moisture that you want around your profiteroles. You might just get one as baby bears. You could pipe these if you want them really neat. But we know the love of piping after the Viennese whirls. Right, so that's the last one there. Now, my oven's on 200 and they're going in for between 25 and 30 minutes. I'm going to set the timer for 25 minutes. I'll have a look at them. They're quite big, so they might just be 30. See you in a minute. So you've watched them on time lapse and they are nice and hard, nice and solid. As soon as they come out of the oven, just put a little hole in the bottom with a skewer, just a little hole. That's going to let the air out, the steam out. Any steam that's inside, that'll come out. And they're going to just go onto that rack to cool. So just put a little hole in there. And that will stop them, if they've got any steam inside, it'll just let the steam out. Whoops, and stop them going soft. So then, I'm just going to let those cool. They won't take long because they're just air. They're just little pockets, but they're perfect. See, Amy and I both said, oh, you see, they look, 10 minutes ago, they look perfect to take out. But if you take them out then, no. So while that's cooling, I'm going to whip 400 mils of cream. It should be about right for that, just over half a pint obviously. And on the stove here, I have got 200 grams of dark Belgian chocolate drops, but you can just use normal chocolates obviously, mine's commercial, with a tablespoon, a low tablespoon of icing sugar and 100 mils of water. And I've got that over some hot water. I know it's in a plastic bowl, but I haven't got a glass one here. And this is a solid plastic bowl, it's not going to melt. And we're going to melt that to give a lovely glossy sauce that then you tip over the top. So I'll come back to you when these are cooled, I've whipped the cream and we're compiling them. These have only taken about 5-10 minutes, literally while I was whipping the cream. I fairly soft whipped the cream, otherwise it goes very hard. Inside. So I filled most of these. I'm just looking for a little hole. I'm squeezing from the top and filling those up. And it's just enough to do these 12. And they're nice big fat profiteroles. It's easier when we were doing them before, when Amy's holding them for you. So I'm just making these. Then these are perfect for a dinner party. I did them at the weekend for a party that I was catering for actually, that I told you last week. So I'm just getting the last of that cream out of there, forcing it into there. It's easier when somebody's holding them for you. And then pop that on there. Now the chocolate sauce, look how glossy and gorgeous that is. Now you can either drizzle it round as you're doing the tower, but the whole point of profiteroles really is to have a warm chocolate sauce. And as I'm going to give these to other people to take home, I'm not going to pour it over now, but it's just what you want. It's a glossy, gorgeous, thick chocolate. So I've done that in a bain-marie over a stove, over the pan, and that's just dropping consistency. So I would drizzle a little bit over that before you serve it, take it out, but put the rest into a jug, warm it up just slightly, and then serve 3 profiteroles each and drizzle chocolate over the top as you serve it. Absolutely gorgeous, perfect for Valentine's Day. Pop a little strawberry on top.